Hey guys, it's Kieran. I'm going to do a quick full market update. So starting off with the Bitcoin price action, we can see how it's been a very low volatility period. If you notice particularly how we've had this trend line, which we had these couple touch points. So first touch point here, second here, and third here. And the problem is that when a lot of people are looking at the same thing, naturally you get an overshoot. And this is an example of how I'm not going to limit in long positions. I rather wait for price to change structure rather than forcing price. And I also explained back then how we had this untapped points of controls. Essentially, these are areas of really high volume, and we had a dump here, and we tapped these untapped, so high volume nodes. And the funny thing is, if I just limited in a long, I would have got stopped up. But fortunately, we just went past it, and I didn't enter a long. That's what's happened here. So now look at the more recent price action. There's no untapped points of controls below. There are some up here, so around 27.2. So we could get a pop back up. And the thing is, of course, the short-term price action, anything could happen. Perhaps you get a pop back up. Specifically, you have these imbalances. So when you've got mass selling like this, you have lots of red candles. What happens is that sometimes you get a snapback up like this to sort of recover these imbalances. An imbalance, long story short, is when there's a wick here and a wick here, there's a gap. And it just shows how we had this nasty price action recently where Bitcoin price action just ran up like this and leaving this huge vectors imbalances. And the people that opened long positions essentially got stopped out like within within the next day essentially. It just shows you need to take profits consistently and manage risk appropriately. Looking at this from a more macro point of view, we're actually still more likely to break down. The lead-in trend was bearish and we're consolidating, so I would expect hopefully in the next 5-10 days at the most we'll get a resolution. So far though, we went below this low, but we didn't actually have any time frame closures. If we actually do go much lower than this, there's actually very little on the way to really till 22.5 particularly. On the weekly chart, actually, we have this imbalance here. So if you notice there's a wick here and a wick here, and there's a gap here. So if you go to 22.5, 22.6K region, that will perhaps recover that imbalance. If we lose this zone here, so essentially, if we lose this region, so essentially, if we lose this 24.8K region, of course, there's obviously a risk going to 19.5K as well. But there's no guarantees it's going to happen. Looking at the 5-day Gaussian channel, this is something that's always nice to look at as well. And what's nice is that this is red initially, but now it's green. But we actually got a wick of this mid-band here, so 23.4K back in August. And this is sloping up. So perhaps, let's say we get a trip back down to the 24.6K region. On the weekly, we actually wicked off here as well. And so now it's sloped up to 24.6K. So if we lose this region, so 24.5, then as per this Gaussian channel, there's actually very little on the way till 20.5K. Something else that I want to talk about as well is this BBWP and this setup that has emerged on the 5-day chart. This setup can take perhaps 15-20 days to play out, and this is more macro point of view analysis. But what we notice is that this blue region here represents really this blue region here represents very low volatility periods, so periods of intense market contraction. And we can see how we've actually now gone from this blue bar, we're sloping up again. So this shows that actually the market's going from more contraction to more trending. And so we could, in the next couple of days, we could get the volatility start resuming again. So that's just something to consider as well. The position of the stochastics is actually still downwards. And so combined with the volatility metric, we can see that actually the momentum is still to the downside unless proven otherwise. And I did some statistics actually across the last 10 setups, and 8 out of 10 times you actually, from point of the setup being triggered, there's actually a chance of a 25 to 35% dump. So that would actually, in line with the other analysis, actually can still put us down to 22.5K or even potentially 19.4K. So these are all things that I'm looking at. Of course, we could get a snapback up as well. And using the MDX algo indicator, if you are interested, there's a referral link in the description, and you get to join an amazing community of traders, and you get to join live streams and get access to his indicators as well. Perhaps we do get a snap back up actually to this 4-hour trend confluence. That's still possible. Sorry, this was a CME chart, so and the actual Bitcoin chart was 27.2 roughly. So that's still, nothing goes down in a straight line. So looking at Ethereum chart, considered the king of the altcoins, is interesting. I've spoken to a friend about this, and he was like, well, this is like a potential head and shoulders. You got a shoulder here, head here, and shoulder here. And so this has actually breached this trend line, if you're so inclined to follow patterns. I'm not a huge pattern fanatic. I mostly like descending and ascending triangles. But looking at this, we've actually, if we breach this, there's actually very little on the way till this 1.4k region. Looking at the ETH to Bitcoin dominance as well, so we actually had this huge sell-off, leaving a bit of imbalances. So perhaps you could get a run up here, so to 0.06, leading to a potential pop. But the main thing I want to also highlight is, I mean, this is still analysis that hasn't really changed from the last couple of weeks. But so looking at the Bitcoin dominance as well, we have this trend line. So we've got this huge trend line here going back to 2016. And this is like a support here, sloping support. So I would expect a pop back up eventually to 58k, 59k. And the problem is that when this happens in Bitcoin dominance, a lot of altcoins, whilst altcoins can still go up in terms of dollar value, their relative value to Bitcoin can really dump. So it's something to be careful of. Another thing is that a lot of people in crypto specifically are very inexperienced. They've not actually seen what high Bitcoin dominance looks like. A lot of people, if you can notice, a lot of them joined after 2020. And so prior to this, you can see how we had this huge run up here. And this happened quite quickly. And when this happened, people got massacred. And it would have been better actually to sell off alts back into Bitcoin. So it's just something else to really be careful when we do get that pop back up. Then looking at some other things as well. So looking at the total crypto market cap, we're still at, it hasn't changed a lot. So 1.2 trillion roughly. And I did explain how I didn't expect us to get above not 1.18 trillion anytime soon, to be honest with you. And so it seems that a lot of the charts look really similar. It seems like this total crypto market cap, Ethereum, Bitcoin, seems to have the same chart setup. It's just eerily similar. This is interesting. Looking at certain other Forex markets as well, we do like to trade Forex markets and commodities in this community as well. And specifically looking at this, we have this triple top sort of, and then we have the sloping trend line. So, and I explained how we actually had that pop back up actually in this support line. Very often these triple tops, I was saying before, can often have less severe corrections than double tops. But I'm not a huge fan of patterns in general, but that's something I've noticed. And we got that. It's funny how you can draw a trend line like this, but we actually got respected to the T. And so on the daily, it's still a downtrend here. It's you got lower highs. Sorry, this is the daily, so lower highs. On the 4, it's still downtrend as well. So we'll have to see if we actually lose this low. If we lose this low, then we go much lower. But it's still possible to see 2.2k at least. If we, perhaps in the next couple of months. That's something else I'm seeing as well. But I'm mostly trading gold, the 1-minute chart, so a lot of this macro view isn't as relevant for my strategy. Then, of course, I want to look at certain Forex setups. There hasn't been too many so far, but the main one I'm actually looking at is actually the euro-dollar. It's just a main setup. So looking at the euro-dollar, we can see how on the weekly chart, it's actually been a key sort of uptrend, higher highs and higher lows. On the daily chart, though, we've got a breach of this low here. So it's start of a downtrend a bit. The 4-hour chart is also downtrend. So what I've done essentially is we've got the supply zones here, so around 1.086 in this one. So I've essentially put an alert there, and this is a region that I'm hoping to short, hopefully once I see a clear change in structure. But guys, thanks a lot for watching. Do like and subscribe. And of course, put some video requests in the comments below, and I'll make more videos on those topics.